Welcome back to my channel. We're just gonna hop right into it. Okay, today I'm gonna be telling you guys my biggest mistake as a business owner in 2023. But first, let's prep this skin. Okay, y'all. So the first thing that I want to mention is, in order to grow as a business owner, you have to be able to identify your mistakes and learn from them, regardless of if it was a mistake made on your end or a mistake made, say, like on your customers or client end. Like, anytime that you find yourself in a situation to where you either regret a decision or you didn't have anything in place or prepared to take on a certain situation, like, it's kind of a mistake. So for me, I would say my biggest mistake was I wasn't stated on business when it came to my policy. So if you have a business and you know that you have either a store policy or a booking policy, for me, since I'm a graphic designer, I have a booking policy. Now, the booking policy basically states the process, what's allowed, what's not allowed, when to turn things in, what the additional fees are, yada, yada, yada. And so this year I found myself in a couple situations that caused me so much stress because I did not stick to the policy for trying to provide good customer service. Now, I believe in providing good customer service, but sometimes you have to do it within reason to your business. You have to realize that you have created that store policy or that booking policy for a reason and you need to stick to it. And you just have to figure out that balance of doing all that you can and being, see, I was gonna do it again. I was gonna say, and be, as lenient as possible without cause of harm to you or your health, right? So the first situation that I found myself in, which was a big one. So pretty much I have this client, a standing client that I've had for over a year and a half now at this point. But early on when working with this person, she referred me to her friend. Now her friend did book with me for like birthday invitations. They did private screenings because they did hosting for certain events. And whenever that came up every blue moon, I will also do flyers for that. So my point being is, yes, I worked with this person over a span of time, but it wasn't so frequent. So when she first booked with me, my prices were one thing. Then, of course, as time went on, I increased my pricing. So I ran into a situation to where, number one, I made a flyer for her. It was last minute. Being the industry that she's in, and with me trying to be understandable that sometimes things happen due to the industry of what she's in, I did not charge her a rush fee. But what also ended up happening was I made the flyer, she had her revisions, I gave her the final copy based off of her revisions, everything was all in good. But I guess that she was supposed to run the graphics by someone else, or maybe she jumped the gun to try to get things going, right? Well, the person, I guess, in charge of the actual event she was hosting did not want to use the flyer. They wanted to use their own marketing. So she then asked me if she can basically get a partial refund. And I'm like, I didn't want to, but at the same time, I wanted to make her happy, so I agreed. So my flyers is just 50 bucks. So she basically owned it. She's like, I want to give you something, but she didn't want to pay for the whole thing because it wasn't used. In actuality, the graphic was made, the work was done, so I should get my full 50. But I was being way too nice. And regardless of if the client ends up liking it or not, the job was done. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have a policy, I have rules, But silly little me, I was not holding this person to those standards. So I went ahead, caved in, and gave her 50% off the flyer because it was not used. Then later on, she followed up wanting to get something else, and then it was super last minute. Not only that, she wanted to get a motion flyer, which is a little bit more expensive than my e-flyers because it's a little more work, right? So that also went up too. Mind you, she kept thinking that was going to be the prices of when we first worked together, like a year prior. So she saw that, changed her mind. She wanted to do a regular flyer. So we do the flyer, speed up, and they asked me, and I was like, oh, okay, so since this is done, you know, whenever, you know, she has her baby, she has like all these events that's going to be lined up soon, so she's going to be needing a lot more stuff. She wants to know if you could honor your previous pricing. And I'm like, well, how many graphics does she intend on ordering? Because if it's a buku amount, then, you know, yeah, we can work out a discount, but it's just like, if it's really not going to be that many, then like, no, I don't want to have to discount myself, right? I increased my pricing for a reason. Now, this is where I'm starting to get a little irritated, because you've already asked for a partial payment or a partial refund for the flyer that wasn't used, which is not my problem. Now you're asking for me to go back to my pricing of kind of like when I first started out, right? So I did kind of find that a little disrespectful, not to mention the whole last minute thing and the last thing, sorry, the last project that she had me do before they asked me about the discount on the future projects. That was super last minute, and it was not business related. It was personal. So that part also irritated me a little bit, because you knew that this event was coming up and you poorly planned for it, and now you're rushing me to get the job done, right? So that was number one. Then eventually I did give them the answer, and I told them no, that I will not be honoring my previous pricing. And here are the reasons why. And I pretty much did like a little breakdown of the type of service that she's already getting. I don't charge her for revisions. I don't charge her for rush fees. They contact me any time of the hour, which is always also irritating. You know, I bend over backwards just to try to satisfy her. And I feel like, you know, at a certain point she was trying to take advantage and walk over me. And the tone and attitude of everything too was just kind of shifting a little bit, so I was like, I'm starting to feel a little used. They did not like my response to that, and honestly, like, it ate me up a little bit. And pretty much like she went and told the person that referred her to me, and that person came and talked to me, you know, and it was just all too much. It's like, did it really have to go this far? So that situation was like the first time I really felt like, oh my goodness, like, this is too much. This is so overwhelming. I feel so used. I feel so, all just based off of trying to be nice and provide good customer service. It's like, I want to be that person that can always be there when you need me, but there's also boundaries. And that lesson at the top of the year taught me boundaries. Now, moving forward, I was trying to be a little more, you know, but more incidents came up to where, once again, it's like I'm trying to communicate with the client. And here's the thing. As a graphic designer for a while now, I have noticed that we all have our different booking policies. We all have our own design process. We all do everything differently. And if a person or a business hires a graphic designer often, like different ones often, they would find an issue acclimating to that graphic designer. And I had one client in particular, and she had a hard time with me because she felt as though I was responsible for everything. So she thought I was responsible for finding all of her photos. She also thought I was responsible for telling her what to put on the flyer. She also thought I was responsible for checking her grammar and punctuations for the copy that she sends over. And I explicitly state in the policy that those things need to be provided to me. And if you need assistance, you know, like, let me know. But at the same time, I want you to hear me when I give you my advice or feedback. So she has a spa, and she wanted particular stock images. Now, I'm gonna tell you right now, stock images, finding Black women in stock images is not that easy, especially when you're trying to narrow it down to something that's spa or esthetician related, on top of you wanting them to be biracial with freckles and curly hair and a certain body type. those things are kind of not that accessible. So if you don't have your own photo shoot, or if you can't locate these stock photos like I asked you to send to me, it's going to be a little difficult for me, and I'm going to be spending more time looking for these photos, which at that point I start losing money on this booking. And she wasn't understanding. She wouldn't cooperate. At one moment I thought that she would. I'm like, okay, she finally hears me. She's gonna help me out. Awesome. Let me get back to the other things while I wait on the photos. And then here it is. I have to pause again because now she's reverting back and not wanting to cooperate. So it was just like this whole situation. And for a while I was contemplating, like, should I fire her as my client? Because my job should not be this stressful, and I don't understand what's hard to grasp about just sending me simple details about your business. So that situation actually was not too bad. How I did end up resolving that though was we spent majority of the revision time on these photos. Like, the photos was such a huge deal to her, and since she would not cooperate and help me find any additional photos, or wouldn't understand of what I was saying about the availability of photos, I pretty much told her, for all future revisions, don't even mention an image to me. Don't mention stock photos, don't mention images, only talk about everything else. Because at this point, I don't want to do it. I don't care to do it. I feel like I've explained myself multiple times, and I feel like I have also spent numerous of hours trying to find things for you to satisfy you, and yet you're still not happy, and you're also still not helping me. So moving forward, I will send you a Canva link to where you can replace the photos if you don't like the ones that I put there, and you're responsible for the end result. But let's just address everything else and get this show on the road. Because she also bought a package of, like, I don't know, like 8 to 12 graphics. So we had quite some time to still work with each other. And the fact that the whole process was being held up over stock photos was crazy. So another area where I saw improvement, or where I could see myself improving, was explaining more when communicating with my client in the revision stages. So pretty much, I would receive their information. They will tell me, you know, how or where, if they have a preference to place certain things, or, you know, they don't. And then I just kind of go based off of, okay, this is the best of what I could do, or this is a good placement of what I can do based off of what's provided to me. And I found myself just doing stuff just because I was moving fast. I will find myself putting the design together and then just sending them an email and say, hey, here's your draft, please look it over and let me know if you have any changes. But eventually I was like, okay, I could see it being more beneficial if I sat down and explained why I placed this here and not here like they asked, or, you know, why this seems empty because it lacks this, or, you know, something like that along the lines. And that's something that I've noticed in, like, the later part of this year. And I say, you know what, like, it adds to the customer service, but it also, like, allows me to help educate my clients. That way, whether they continue to work with me or with other people, they know, they have a better idea of what they should include when submitting their information, or at least give them a little bit of insight of how we see things when it comes to designing, because they're not going to see things how we see it. They can't visualize it, or they don't have the skill to put it together. So they also don't know what's all, you know, included in trying to make their vision come alive. So I was like, okay, even though it's going to take me a while to type paragraphs breaking down each section of their website as to why, you know, this doesn't look like the example you sent me. Well, it doesn't look like the example because your whole color palette is muted. You have no accent colors. You also don't have any professional photos. You also don't have enough information. Your fonts are not consistent. Your main heading font is actually not that appealing. You know, it's just like all these different things, and it's like you want it to look like someone else's website, but your branding is not as developed as theirs. So how is it that you expect their result when you have what you have? And that's not to necessarily bash anybody's brand, but that's just the reality of it. Now we can definitely work on it together, but I'm no magician. I can just do the best of what I can visually, but it is up to you to provide me the information that I said was necessary to help me put your design together. But we can also work together to try to figure something out. And if at the end of this, you know, I add on to your current brand guide or your style guide, that's great, because I want you to be equipped the best way possible moving forward, whether it's with me or another designer. And those were the feelings that I had. And I said, you know what? That's what I want to start including in my services. So I'm going to start being more descriptive, and I've recently done that, and I'm like, okay, great. And I feel like it makes a difference, because instead of them thinking that like I disregarded what they said, or sometimes they don't know how to communicate the things that they need, or since they know nothing about it, or they really just don't want to be bothered, they never say anything and they take the design and not be happy. And sometimes I can kind of tell through email, and you know, sometimes they refuse to even respond, but I just know that will make all the world of difference, is just take my time and start explaining to them line by line why this can't be over here, why this can't look like this other person's website, because you don't have all of the information that they have. You don't have the quality content that they have. They also had all this, you know, it's like there's so many elements that go into it. So I'm going to take my time and actually start breaking things down for people, so they can also understand that I'm not just throwing something together. I'm literally thinking things through. And the way that my thought process works, it goes 100 miles a minute. So, you know, having to condense that down is going to be a bit of a challenge, but I think it's going to be worth it in the end. So those two situations is what I wanted to share, to kind of give you guys like a little bit of an insight of, you know, a couple instances that I went through where I struggled trying to stick to my policy, stick to the rules, where it blurred with trying to give good customer service, and you know, being nice. And sometimes that just backfires. Sometimes you have to just have a stronger backbone when it comes to business, even if that's almost at the extent of the customer or client not being happy. When you know that you have done all that it is that you could do to try to satisfy them, and it seems like you've exhausted all options, all efforts, and for some reason it's still not good enough, that's when you kind of have to know that you have to walk away, you know? And so going into 2024, I'm definitely going to learn from those mistakes of not sticking to my policy, because I did put those in place for a reason, to avoid situations like the situations I've gotten myself into. And I built on my policy based off of my experiences. So when something happens to where I didn't have like a particular rule in place, and a situation comes up, and I'm like, oh wow, like I don't have this here, let me go ahead and add this here just in case it comes up again. Like, those are the reasons why I put these things into place. And why am I being hard-headed and not listening to myself? I don't know, ask me tomorrow. But definitely take my stories and my experiences and apply it to your own. The biggest thing that your business could have is a booking policy or a store policy. That is the backbone. That is what you lean towards when it comes to chargebacks or handling customer situations or returns or whatever the case may be. That is why we have those things. So the fact that we keep ignoring it is crazy. And I say we because I don't want to be in this by myself. I gotta, you know, y'all coming with me. But that is pretty much it for my video. I hope you guys have learned something, could possibly relate. If you do relate, drop a story down in the comments and let me know how, you know, you not following your policy has backfired on you or has caused your job so much more stress than it needed to. Or share your biggest mistake that you feel that you've made in 2023 and how you plan on correcting it in 2024. Like always, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you guys haven't already, go ahead and check out our previous videos because I have bomb content. I promise you. I'm not just saying it. I'm for real. Bye y'all, and I'll see you in the next video.